Okay, so we all know Starbucks, right? I
Mm.
mean, maybe you're like a total Starbucks fanatic. Maybe it's a once in a blue moon kind of thing. But I bet you've looked at that price tag on your drink and thought, how do they even justify this?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, today we are doing a deep dive into an article from Coffee at Corner. It's called How Much Does It Cost Starbucks to Make a Cup of Coffee? And let me tell you, it gets pretty interesting.
Yeah. It is funny how often we think about the cost of, like, a cup of coffee in pretty simple terms, beans, milk, maybe some syrup. But this article, like, breaks down just how many things go into that final price we see.
Yeah, we're talking like a worldwide brand, right? So
Yeah.
many factors. The article kicks off with that number everyone kind of knows.
Right.
The average medium coffee at Starbucks is about $1.50 across the globe. But then they're like, hold on, there's more to it.
Right. Because of the dollar 50, it can be totally different depending on where you actually are. Coffee at Corner uses this example of Arabica versus Robusta beans.
Oh.
So Arabica, a lot of people like it for espresso drinks, but it can be more expensive to roast. So your latte in, say, Seattle could easily be pricier than, like, a plain coffee somewhere else that's using Robusta beans.
So even just the beans they choose have this like ripple effect on
That's
pricing.
not good.
Wow, but I was really surprised by the price jump when you get to those like fancy drinks. We're talking 6, even $8 for some iced latte things.
Totally. And that's where the whole psychology of how they set prices gets interesting. Starbucks is really good at something called premium pricing.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Like, think of all those crazy Instagrammable drinks. Are we actually paying for the extra stuff in them, or are we paying for that feeling of luxury, like, I'm treating myself?
It's like they know we want to indulge,
Yeah.
and that affects what we'll pay.
Yeah. But hold on, the article goes even further. It lists all these things that affect prices that have nothing to do with the coffee itself. Some of it honestly blew my mind. One that got me was how even, like, the type of people who live in an area can change the price. Starbucks, they actually look at things like the average age, income, even education level of their typical customer in a certain spot.
No way. Really?
Yeah. So a Starbucks in a wealthier neighborhood, they can charge more just because they know people there are used to spending more.
So it's not just the drink, it's about who's buying it. Wild.
Totally. And then the article, get this, says even if a place sells alcohol can affect coffee prices. That one seemed weird to me at first.
I know, right? I was like, what does beer have to do with my latte?
But it makes sense when you think about it. Those Starbucks spots that do serve alcohol, like they have that evenings concept,
Yeah.
I think, well, they might be able to charge a bit more for, everything because they're not just a coffee place. They're a hangout spot, a place to go after work.
It's the experience.
Yeah.
And that comes at a cost.
Exactly. And then you've got things like fair trade beans, where ethical sourcing comes with a higher cost. So you might pay a tad more, but you're backing more sustainable things.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are okay with that these days. What about roast levels, though? Does that have much of an effect?
Ooh, that's a good question. Roast levels, they're mostly about the taste. So there might be tiny cost differences depending on how it's roasted, but it's more about what people like, not a big price driver for Starbucks, I'd say.
Makes sense. But then, of course, got to factor in those sneaky things,
Yeah.
taxes and all the extra charges they add on.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Those can make a big difference and be part of why prices vary so much from place to place.
So we've talked about a lot, from the beans to the people buying it
Mhm.
to, ethical sourcing and stuff. Before we go on, though, I got to ask about those happy hour deals they do. 3 to 5 weekdays.
Yes. The classic buy one, get one or half price Frappuccino strategy. But here's the thing. Are those really discounts or is it just clever marketing, to get people in when it's slow?
Starting to see a pattern here. Nothing simple with Starbucks, huh? But hey, who doesn't like a deal, right? Even if they planned it that way.
Right. It's probably good for both sides. Starbucks gets more customers when it's usually quiet, and we get our discounted treat.
Speaking of treats, I'm curious about the pricing on all that other stuff they have. Like, why is there such a difference between plain coffee and, like, the espresso drinks?
Well, a few reasons. Espresso needs special equipment, and the baristas, they need more training to make those fancy designs and all.
Right? Yeah.
Plus, there's the whole Frappuccino factor. Are we paying for all those ingredients and how complicated it is? Or are we paying for the fact that it looks good in photos?
Good point. I've definitely been guilty of taking a few Frappuccino pics myself. They're very pretty. What about the food, though? Are the sandwiches and stuff worth it, or should I just bring my own lunch?
That's up to you, really, and your budget. But it is interesting that Starbucks is trying to be more than just a coffee place. More of a place to get food, too.
Right? Like with those super fancy dessert bars they have.
Mm.
This article even mentions a Nutella sundae for $11.
hmm
Are they trying to compete with dessert places now?
It seems like it. By having more food options, they can appeal to more people, I guess.
So is that the takeaway here? That Starbucks prices just change depending on the location and size, and that's it. It feels like there's more to it, don't you think?
Oh, it's way more than just size and where you are.
Mm-hmm.
This coffee at corner article, it kind of hints at something else that's like super powerful.
Yeah.
The whole idea of how we see the brand, like how fancy we think it is, affects the price.
Okay, I'm listening. Tell me more.
Think about it, right? Starbucks isn't just selling you coffee, they're selling like a whole experience, a feeling.
Right.
They've created this idea of it being a third place, not home, not work, but somewhere cozy. You can chill, connect with people.
Yeah, yeah. It's like you walk into a Starbucks and you're part of something. Like a whole group of people who love coffee, right?
Exactly. And that sense of belonging, it actually like has value.
Mm.
People will pay extra not just for the coffee, but for what comes with the brand, all those good feelings.
So we're paying for a bit of the Starbucks magic, is that it? The comfy chairs, the baristas being nice, that feeling of connection.
It's all part of it. They've built this brand people trust. They even like want to be associated with it. That gives them power to charge more.
It's kind of crazy when you think about it. They turned coffee into like way more than just a drink. It's a whole lifestyle thing almost.
Shows how good they are at marketing. And they totally get how people think. They know we'll pay more for stuff that matches like our values or what we want to be,
Mm.
even who we hang out with.
Makes you wonder, are we really just paying for the coffee or like investing in this whole grand experience?
$1 million question. And honestly, everyone's going to decide that for themselves. But Starbucks, they're pros at making a brand that's bigger than just what they sell, that's for sure.
So next time I'm there, I'll be looking at it differently. It's not just a coffee shop. It's like this whole carefully made experience they're selling.
Exactly. And I think this deep dive has really shown us how complex setting prices can be, especially for a huge company like Starbucks. It goes way beyond just how much the beans and milk cost. We're talking psychology, branding, how they get all their stuff, even global economics.
It's crazy what you learn when you start asking questions and digging into things, huh? That's what we're all about here, uncovering that stuff that's hidden beneath the surface.
Absolutely. Being curious is what drives us, and knowledge is the prize.
Speaking of prizes, I'm getting a serious caffeine craving now. What about you? Ready for that coffee, Red?
I can never resist a good cup of coffee, especially after a chat like this. Let's do it.
But this time, we'll go in knowing all about what goes into that price tag. Who knew coffee could be so complicated?
That's the fun part. There's always more to learn, more to find out. And that's why we keep coming back for more.
Well said. So, to everyone listening, grab your favorite drink, whether it's Starbucks or something else, and keep exploring the world with that curious mind, you know?
And remember, next time you're at Starbucks, think about all the stuff that went into making that cup you're holding. It's a story about global trade, people being clever, and yeah, a bit of marketing magic sprinkled into.
This whole thing has really got me thinking bigger picture, you know? We started with like, how much does it cost Starbucks to make a cup of coffee? And
Yeah.
now we've talked about like the whole world economy, psychology, marketing. It's a lot.
Yeah, it is kind of wild how one, like, pretty simple question can take us down so many paths. Shows the power of just being curious and wanting to dig a little deeper, right?
It's like we peeked behind the scenes at Starbucks and found this whole system, all these things affecting their prices. Honestly, I'll never look at that price tag the same way again.
I think that's a really key point from this deep dive. The more we understand how businesses actually work, like what makes them make decisions, the better we are as consumers.
It's not about like boycotting Starbucks or anything. It's more about just knowing what's going on, like the marketing, the tricks they use to get us to buy stuff.
Right, exactly. Knowledge is power, as they say. And when we're talking about how we spend our money, that knowledge can help us make choices that make sense for us, for our values and our wallets.
So next time I'm at Starbucks, I'll be thinking about all that hidden stuff that went into that price.
Mm-hmm.
The farmers growing the beans, the people roasting them, the ones coming up with the whole brand image. It's a lot.
And hey, maybe you'll even enjoy that coffee a little more, knowing how much went into it getting to you.
This has been like seriously eye-opening. Feels like we just scratched the surface, but I definitely understand way more about the whole world of coffee now.
That's the best part of these deep dives. There's always more to find out, more to learn, more to talk about.
Well said. So, to everyone listening, Keep asking those questions, keep exploring, and keep going deep on the things that make you curious. You never know what cool stuff you'll find.
And remember, next time you're sipping your favorite drink, Starbucks, tea, whatever it is, take a second to think about all the things that came together to make that happen.
Until next time, stay curious, keep learning, and thanks for joining us on this deep dive.